Hey, stranger on the internet. To maintain sanity early in quarantine, I started a speculative biology project. So imagine my surprise when I noticed speculative biology beginning to become a trend on YouTube, so I decided I wanted to capitalize on it. I also was beginning to crave an audience to hear of my creative exploits. However, I was fairly unhappy with the project as it was, so I started a new one carrying over a lot of stuff I'm happy with, like certain phylums, albeit sometimes altered, but the 2.0 version, if you will, is the one I'll be showing you in this series. In this video, I'll establish all the non-biological components of the planet like star, moon structure, and chemistry. Please do note, I am not a professional of any kind of degree, doctorate, or master's. I'm just an early teen with biology/taxonomy/paleontology as an autistic special interest. So with that, let's get started. One might ask what speculative biology, or spec bio for short, or just a spec project in some circles is. In short, the art of speculating about how life may evolve in the future, an alternate timeline, or as in this case, an alien planet, based on how it's evolved on Earth following trends that show up. An alien planet is much easier to do for reasons I'll get into in a future video on how to do your own speculative biology project. Among other things, if I get you itching to make your own, then I'll suggest you watch these: Pharnotopia's Alien Evolution series to get a basic understanding of how evolution works, Bibliardian's Alien Biospheres series for terminology, and Random Evo Times Speculative Biology series won't hurt either. All good tutorials in spec bio. Oh, and before I forget, artifexian's videos on moons, axial tilt, currents, climate, and wind patterns. All good tutorials on planet building, important for spec bio and what I'm doing in this video. The sun. I actually forgot to do this part, jumping straight to the planet, until I was modeling my moons and the sun came into play as a factor in their orbit. Oops. Very similar to Earth. I'm not fleshing it out. You can't make me! But for all intents and purposes, the same as ours. Axial tilt. This creates seasons, so we'll have to have it be something notable since seasons are necessary for habitable planets. So we'll set the axial tilt at minus 27 degrees, which is more than Earth's 23 degrees, but nothing too extreme, mainly because that's not what I'm here to play with in this project, but I don't want anything here to be identical to that of Earth, even if different only in petty ways. The minus, by the way, just means it's in the opposite direction from that of Earth, and so the sun will rise in the west and set in the east. And nextly, local day, 22 hours, local year, 301 local days. As time goes on, both will gradually get longer. This also happened on Earth. Also, in both cases, those stats are irrelevant unless there's something extreme, but regardless. Chemical conditions. No hydrogen sulfide! For those of you who got that joke, and those who did not, for that matter, I will say that our understanding of what we can and cannot do here is limited. I.e., you need carbon, oxygen, and water for life, unless you're using silicon-based life forms, which I will note are very unlikely for reasons we'll get into in the how-to video. One probably ought to stick closely to Earth here if they have any respect for realism, but if you do want to play around with these, then please avoid chemicals that would kill pretty much anything you subject them to. H2S planets, ahem, otherwise you're in the dark here, research it yourself. So again, I'd say stick to Earth-like conditions here. So finally, after all that babbling on, here's my planet's chemical composition. Moons. I think I'll have 3 moons, which would lead to more unpredictable tides, and a more chaotic intertidal zone than that of Earth's. From the 3 moons, which may just end up being more work for me, but oh well. I'll make moon number 1 a minor moon, a moon without enough gravity to pull itself into a spherical shape, or put more simply, a meteorite that found itself in orbit of a planet. For a planet to be life-bearing, it must have at least 1 major moon, a moon with enough gravity to pull itself into a spherical shape. Or, put more simply, a planet that found itself in orbit of a bigger planet, though really they're in orbit of each other. And do note these are pretty rare. A major moon is necessary if you want your life forms to come out onto land, since you'll need a major moon to make tides by pulling the sea with its gravity and thus create an intertidal zone, an area of the beach that's in between being on land and underwater, since the tides rather regularly change its status in this regard. It's necessary for sessile organisms, i.e. plants, to come onto land, which in turn is required for heterotrophs, i.e. animals, to come onto land, so very important. I will have this minor moon fairly close to the planet. This will give it a strong pull on the planet, creating large and considerable tides for its size and consequent level of gravity. And other purposes. No spoilers. I'll have moon number 2 be a major moon to stabilize my planet's orbit and axial tilt, and generate tides. I'll have it generate small tides to hustle my species onto land, and so it shall be small for a major moon, and I will place it fairly far out. And I'll have another minor moon a bit further out than that. It will have no effect, I'll explain why it's here at a later point. But do note, I'll have it consist of a fairly reflective material like marble or granite. Gravity. I'm going to have a rather sizable 92% Earth gravity achieved through smaller planet size than that of Earth. I know a lot of spec bio does this, but for a reason being big life form equals cool. Plus, I am keeping it rather minimal, even considering that 80% is the minimum, and 200 times Earth gravity is the maximum for life-bearing planets. That is on the low end, so technically most projects should be high-gravity planets, but I digress. So, yeah. The audio for this is complete. So now it's the end card, I guess it's all casual. I'm just here sitting in my leaning chair with a cup of tea. I'm a British Lutra, so yeah, it's the end card. Anyway, so, first order of business, I'm a transgender woman, I use she, her pronouns. If I find you misgendering me in the comments, I will delete your comment. This is a small enough channel that I will find you. Anyway, I also will be publishing episodes on every clade individually, since I mean that's kind of small bite-sized thing is more compatible with my executive function disorder, and then I will have seasons on like phylums or like subphylums or coming onto land or whatever, and then I'll compile those into a series episode, which will be more like the typical stuff you get from the Biblarians and the Dapper Dinos of the world. So yeah. And lastly, I'd actually recommend anyone who's starting out on here, they go and they make some sort of like video I don't really care about, somewhat like this, where it's like you just make the video and you figure out how to use the audio program or whatever program they're using, as a large part of making this is boiled down to beating iMovie into submission. So yeah, this is how I talk normally. This is how I talk when not on a script. I am very rambly and very incoherent, I know. So yeah, anyway, bye.